Let's talk about that feeling, that strange, hollow ache in a room full of laughter. The sense of being a ghost at your own party, surrounded by people, yet profoundly, inexplicably alone. We've all been taught this is a warning sign, a social failure, a void that must be filled with more plans, more friends, more noise. But what if this feeling isn't a failure at all? What if it's a calling? The psychologist Carl Jung, a man who journeyed into the deepest parts of the human mind, believed this pull toward silence is one of the most vital invitations we will ever receive. He argued that true solitude isn't about running from the world, but about finally finding yourself in it. What if that feeling of being an outsider is just your soul, tired of the performance, asking to finally speak with the only person who truly matters? You. We live in the most connected era in history, or so we're told. Our lives are a relentless stream of notifications, status updates, and shared stories. We are hyperlinked and perpetually online, performing for an audience that never sleeps. And yet, a silent epidemic of alienation is spreading. We have fallen for the great paradox of our time. The more we broadcast our lives to the outside world, the more we lose connection to our inner one. This isn't the classic loneliness of an empty room. It's a far more haunting modern affliction. It is the loneliness of being misunderstood. Jung described it perfectly. Loneliness does not come from having no people about one, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself. It's the loneliness that comes from playing a role so convincingly that you forget who you are when the applause fades. This role is what Jung called the persona. Borrowed from the masks worn by ancient actors, the persona is the polished, curated version of ourselves we present to the world. It's the ideal employee, the perfect partner, the effortlessly cool friend. It is a necessary tool for navigating society. But danger begins when the mask fuses with the skin. In a world obsessed with personal branding, the pressure to maintain this flawless facade is immense. We filter our realities and broadcast our highlight reels, becoming so skilled at the performance that we start to believe we are the avatar we've created. Beneath that shimmering surface, however, your authentic self remains. This deeper self holds your unfiltered thoughts, your quiet doubts, and your secret passions, the parts of you that don't care about likes or approval. And when this true self is consistently ignored, a deep, psychic unease takes root. It manifests as that nagging feeling of being a fraud, a low-grade anxiety you can't name, or a profound emptiness even in moments of triumph. The world is giving a standing ovation, but you feel hollow, because the applause is for the mask, not for the soul underneath. Living as a constant performance is a form of slow spiritual death. It is utterly exhausting. Every interaction becomes a strategic calculation. Every word is filtered through the lens of audience approval. We burn an astonishing amount of psychic energy upholding an image, leaving us drained, brittle, and disconnected from our own life force. This relentless outward focus creates a terrifying inner vacuum. When we are never truly alone, we can never be with ourselves. The silence required for introspection becomes a source of dread, because in that quiet, the voices we've suppressed might finally speak. The thoughts we've deemed unacceptable and the feelings we've dismissed as inconvenient are waiting there. So we seek more distraction, another podcast, another feed to scroll, another series to binge. We choose the predictable noise of the crowd over the radical honesty of our own company. This avoidance feeds a powerful force Jung called the shadow. The shadow is the vault where we lock away every part of ourselves we've been taught to be ashamed of. Our anger, our envy, our vulnerabilities, our secret desires. It is not inherently evil. It is simply the dark side of our personality because it is hidden from the light of consciousness. But a neglected shadow doesn't stay quiet. It seeps out. It erupts in sudden, disproportionate fits of rage. It manifests as vicious judgment of others, where we attack them for the very flaws we deny in ourselves, a defense mechanism Jung called projection. As he wisely noted, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. The cost of this inauthenticity is a fractured self. We become a house divided, our conscious mind at war with our unconscious depths. This internal conflict breeds anxiety, burnout, and a life of quiet desperation. We find ourselves in careers, relationships, and lifestyles that look perfect on the outside but feel hollow on the inside, because they were chosen by the mask, not the self. This profound self-betrayal is the true source of the loneliness we feel in a crowd. What is the way out of this gilded cage? The radical path is not to build a better mask, but to dare to take it off. This is the great pivot Jung proposed, a journey not further out into the clamor of the world, but deeper into the stillness of the self. Jung lived this philosophy. At the peak of his career, following a devastating public break from his mentor, Sigmund Freud, his entire world collapsed. Instead of distracting himself, he retreated. He embarked on a years-long period of intense solitude, documenting his journey into his own unconscious in his legendary Red Book. This was his confrontation with the unconscious, a time where he conversed with figures from his dreams and visions to heal his fragmented psyche. His most revolutionary ideas were born from this solitary pilgrimage. Jung understood that society, which he termed the spirit of the times, relentlessly pulls us toward conformity. But there is another, deeper current, the spirit of the depths. This is the timeless realm of the soul, of myth, and of profound, universal truth. To access it, you must be willing to step away from the noise. For Jung, solitude was not an escape from life, but a pilgrimage to its source. He wrote, "Solitude is for me a fount of healing which makes my life worth living. Talking is often a torment for me, and I need many days of silence to recover from the futility of words." This wasn't an antisocial recluse speaking. It was a man who knew that true clarity arises from profound inner quiet. He made a crucial distinction between loneliness, a painful, involuntary isolation, and solitude, a chosen, generative state of being with oneself. Loneliness is the poverty of being without others. Solitude is the richness of being with yourself. In solitude, the relentless pressure to perform vanishes. The masks can finally come down. In this quiet, authentic space, the real work of becoming whole can finally begin. This is the heart of Jung's philosophy. The ultimate purpose of life is individuation. Individuation is the journey of integrating the conscious and unconscious parts of your being, the persona and the shadow, to become the complete individual you were always meant to be. It is not a quest for perfection, but for wholeness. And this sacred lifelong work, Jung argued, cannot happen in a crowd. It demands we embrace solitude as a laboratory for the soul. Choosing solitude is an active, potent practice. It is the deliberate creation of a sacred space where the forgotten parts of you can be heard, confronted, and integrated. First, solitude is where you finally meet your shadow. As long as we are surrounded by noise, we can forever distract, perform, and project. But in the stark quiet of our own company, there is nowhere left to hide. The feelings of inadequacy, the simmering resentments, the old griefs, they begin to surface. This is uncomfortable, which is precisely why we fear being alone. But Jung taught that this confrontation is the absolute prerequisite for psychological health. He famously wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." An unconscious shadow runs your life from behind the scenes. But when you bring it into the light of awareness, it loses its destructive power. In solitude, you can finally ask, where does this anger come from? What is this envy trying to teach me? In doing so, you reclaim the vast energy locked away in these repressed parts, and often discover they contain not just weakness, but your greatest strength and creativity. Second, solitude is the crucible for individuation. This process is about untangling who you truly are from who you were told to be. It is the heroic act of separating from the collective to become a sovereign individual. In the silence, you can finally hear your own voice above the roar of the crowd. You can begin to sift through the layers of social conditioning and ask the real questions. Is this my dream, or a dream society sold me? Are these my values, or the values I inherited? This is how you reclaim your inner authority and become the author of your own life. Third, solitude is the fertile ground for creativity and profound connection. Jung believed we have access to a deep well of wisdom in what he called the collective unconscious. To access it, we must quiet the chatter of the rational mind. He modeled this with his Bollinger Tower, a simple stone house he built with his own hands as a place for retreat. There, he chopped wood, cooked his own food, and simply existed without a mask. He said, "At Bollinger, I am in the midst of my true life. I am most deeply myself." This was not an escape. It was an act of profound connection to his own soul. In solitude, we create space for this deeper self to emerge. This is where creative breakthroughs happen, and where we feel a connection to something larger than our small ego. Jung believed our ultimate purpose is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being. Solitude is where we find the flint to strike that light. This journey inward can feel daunting, but it begins with small, intentional acts of quiet. If exploring your own inner world resonates with you, subscribe for more deep dives into the art of living an authentic life. This path is personal, but you don't have to walk it alone. We began with the ache of being alone in a crowd, a feeling our culture labels as a problem. But seen through the wisdom of Carl Jung, it is not a problem. It is a profound summons. It is your soul's rebellion against a life lived on the surface. It is an invitation to embark on the single most important journey there is, the journey home to yourself. To embrace solitude is not to reject the world, but to prepare to meet it with authenticity. It is to retreat from the noise to finally hear your own signal. It is about having the courage to face your darkness in order to discover your own light. This is the work of a lifetime, but it is the most rewarding work there is. To choose solitude is to choose self-respect. It is to declare that your inner life matters, that your thoughts are worth listening to, and that the person you are beneath the masks is worthy of being known. So, dare to close the door. Dare to turn off the screen. Dare to sit in the stillness you were taught to fear and simply be with yourself. You may find that in the quiet, you discover a peace that the noise could never offer. You may find that in being alone, you finally feel completely, unshakably at home. You might just discover that solitude is not an empty space, but a sacred one, where you become who you were always meant to be. If you are ready to stop running from the silence and start listening to what it has to offer, make a promise to yourself. Let us know in the comments by writing, "I choose myself." Because in the end, that is what this journey has always been about. It is the brave, beautiful, and radical choice to finally, fully, and unapologetically choose yourself.